Identity is a powerful thing. Experiences shape our beliefs, beliefs shape our values, values shape our identity, and our identity determines our behavior. Now, identity is very hard to change, and it's nearly impossible to get someone to act incongruently with their identity. So how do you use identity the right way in your marketing? And how can we take lessons from building our kids' positive identity to do this? Welcome to Market Like a Parent and Parent Like a Marketer, where we explore the connections between parenting and marketing and what one can teach us about the other. I'm Danielle Weil, founder of DW Copy, creator of LaunchFlow. I'm a married mom of four living on a kibbutz in Israel, a copywriter, marketing strategist, launch expert. I've made over $100 million in sales for clients over the course of my career. Now, I help business owners figure out their core marketing narrative and create all of the strategy and copy that flows from that. Launches, funnels, email strategy, copy, and more. And the interesting thing about a narrative, which we talked about in episode 6, is that it can completely change your perspective on a specific thing. And if you want to dive deeper into that, check out episode 6. But for right now, let's just say that how we identify ourselves, who we identify ourselves as, is something that's really powerful and foundational. So whether it is gender, religion, politics, nationality, as a business owner, as a parent, as our choice of career, we have these identities that are really core and fundamental to who we are as a person. I am a woman. I am Israeli. I'm an American. I'm a mom. I'm a business owner. I am a smart, compassionate, kind person. And all of these identities shape how I act and the decisions I make and the things that I believe. But identity isn't something we're born with in the way that we think. In fact, babies don't recognize themselves as having an independent self until they're about 18 to 24 months old. If you put them in front of a mirror and put a mark on their face, remember learning this in psychology class? If they touch the mirror, they don't realize that it's actually them in the mirror. It's just, oh, that baby in the mirror. It's not until they touch their own face when they see that mark that they realize that they have a separate sense of self. So identity starts forming in childhood, solidifies in adolescence, and becomes pretty rigid by your 20s, unless something happens to shake up and change that identity. So how do we shape how our children view themselves? And how can we shape that identity in a strong, healthy, and positive way? Now, the best way is to model it, to be very intentional with your praise and your criticism. Don't just throw empty words. Oh, that was amazing. That was so beautiful. Kids will see through it. They know when a compliment and praise is earned. But don't be overly critical either. The best thing you can do is model for yourself the identity that you want them to have, the traits that you want them to identify with. Do you want them to consider themselves kind, generous people? So my husband is the type of person who will drop everything if someone needs something and go out of his way, go the extra mile to help people. And he has always been like that. He, I think, got it from his parents. And it's something that I love about him and value greatly, and also see in my kids. For example, when the war broke out here and there were a lot of dads of the families being called up for reserve duty and the moms were at home with the kids by themselves, I decided to make 20 pans of cinnamon rolls. It's a nice treat. Who doesn't love hot, fresh cinnamon rolls? I love making them. And we basically got in the kitchen. We started an operation. We made 20 pans of cinnamon rolls. We sent them out to the neighbors. And that was just a nice thing that we did. And my daughters saw that. And my one daughter specifically took it upon herself to get in the kitchen on a whim and start baking. She'll bake a batch of cookies, she'll bake cakes, and she will hand deliver them to the same families. Out of nowhere, as a nice gesture. Why? I like to think it's because she saw us modeling it. And that behavior is reinforced by our community as well. Whenever someone gives birth, there's always a meal train that happens. If someone passes away, there's meals and there's things that are organized for that family. There's a supportive community that reinforces that this is just who we are. This is what we do. My daughter bakes for the entire neighborhood and we cannot get her to stop. So if I asked you to describe your own identity, who are you? What traits do you claim for yourself? Would other people call you those traits as well? Are you curious, adventurous, trustworthy, generous, steadfast? And how can we use this identity setting to increase results in our marketing? Now, what I want to do is pull from one of my favorite books. It is the book Pre-Suasion by Robert Cialdini. And I'm just going to read a quick section to you from page 25. He's talking about a study that was done. Consider the results of an experiment performed by communication scientists who approached people and made a request for assistance with a survey. We've all experienced something similar when a clipboard-carrying researcher stops us in a shopping mall or supermarket and asks for a few minutes of our time. As is the case for the typical shopping mall requester, these scientists' success was dismal. Only 29% of those asked to participate consented. But Bulkin and Anderson, the two scientists, thought they could boost compliance without resorting to any of the costly payments that marketers often feel forced to imply. No $25 Amazon gift card for these folks. What they did was they stopped a second sample of people and began the interaction with a persuasive opener. Do you consider yourself a helpful person? They asked. Following brief reflection, nearly everyone answered yes. It would be a little weird to say no. And in that privileged moment, after the subjects had confirmed privately and affirmed publicly their helpful natures, the researchers requested help with their survey. And 77.3% volunteered. Just by asking one question, asking them to confirm something about their identity, you increase compliance from 29% to 77%. Why is that so powerful? Because when you state publicly something about your identity, something that is so core to your identity, it is almost painful for us to act incongruently with that identity. If you identify as a helpful person and then are asked to do something that is helpful and you turn it down, we can't process that incongruence, that cognitive dissonance about who we are. We want to show the world that we are indeed the helpful people that we said we were. Only use your powers of persuasion for good, please. But if we did, knowing this, intentionally use it for good, what would that look like? How could we get our kids to actively claim a positive identity and act in accordance with it? How can we get them to declare, acknowledge, claim that they are generous, helpful, kind, inclusive, adventurous, flexible, that they are these traits that we want them to have so that we can get them to do the things that are kind, helpful, generous, flexible, adventurous, whatever we want them to be? How can we seed that question, that persuasive question early on so that it makes it easier to do the thing that we want them to do? So for example, have a kid who is struggling to go to bed on time. They wander in and out. You put them to bed, they come out, they need this, they need that, they need to brush their teeth, they need to drink water. And it's a back and forth all night. How can we earlier in the process, in a conversation, get them to say, are you going to sleep? Are you the type of kid who really values getting good sleep? Or do you know how important that is for you? Or if we want them to be kind, other than modeling it ourselves, we can ask, do you think you're a nice person? What do you think? Now, chances are they'll say yes. And if they suddenly start fighting with a sibling over a toy or a whatever, she punched me, he kicked me, she took my whatever. Well, nice kids, kind kids share with their siblings, don't they? How much more likely is it that fight will be diffused just because you've planted that seed around that positive identity? Now let's take it to marketing. This is really interesting in sales conversations. So it depends on your offer, the thing that you want to have them claim as their identity. So for example, if you have a retreat, you sell a high-end retreat, it's $10,000. It's an adventure in the jungle. It's a business mastermind that comes with this adventure in the jungle. And you can persuade the conversation by asking, hey, would you consider yourself an adventurous type of person? Before you even mention the offer, before you even introduce that there is something there. Those people who raise their hands as adventurous, much more likely to be interested in what you have to sell. And if we can intentionally and consciously shape the traits that we want to enhance in ourselves and our audience, those parts of our identity that we are proud to have, then we can help both our kids and our customers make decisions that will be in alignment with that identity that we want for them. We want our people to be kind. We want them to be generous. We want them to be adventurous. We want them to be all those things. How can we, in our copy, in our marketing, in our conversations, bring that conversation earlier, right at the beginning, to a question of identity, so that they are more likely to say yes when you actually get to the offer? What is one way that you can use positive identity shaping in your favor? How can you precede this question of identity in your marketing? I'm going to leave you with that for today. And if you have a story of this, if you try this, let me know how it goes. I'm super curious. Until next time, I'm Danielle Weil. Let's go out there and market like a parent and parent like a marketer.